Right, I just want to say that, like, this is mostly just me fangirling for the next 15 something minutes about how excited I am. Although I do give a summary, so stick around. Quick disclaimer, I read the other Hunger Games books 2 years ago and I haven't rehashed my memories since. This whole video I've literally just been reading off an article I found on the internet and the Hunger Games wiki page. So my information may not be 100% accurate, so feel free to correct me in the comments if you find a mistake. Guys, I woke up to this and I decided to combine all of that information into a lovely little video for you. The lighting really is something else today. I think that's better. Right, guys, I'm hoping you all know what we are sat here for. The new Hunger Games book, Sunrise on the Reaping, has been announced to be released next spring by Suzanne Collins. Not only that, the movie adaptation is then going to be released in November of 2026. Guys, when I tell you I cannot be happier, I could not be happier, honestly. I feel like I should like have some kind of like prop or display to like get into the vibe, but I mean the best I can do is like print out the pin. Here it is. There we go, guys. Here's what we know so far, okay? Sunrise on the Reaping is the prequel book to The Hunger Games. It takes 40 years after the events of the Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes in the 50th Hunger Games, which if you are a fan of these books, you would know that this is in fact a quarter quell.
5 years, there would be a quarter quell.
You would also know the winner of the 50th quarter quell, just from like established lore, was Haymitch. Haymitch Abernathy, also known as the mentor to Katniss and Peter in the 74th and the 75th Hunger Games. So this book would take place 24 years before Katniss and Peter's story, but 40 years after the events of the Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes. So we're probably expecting like a completely new cast, except hopefully we do get some like flash forward scenes to like the future with like Woody Harrelson himself, you know, the OG Haymitch. That's what I'm like hoping for. The director of this movie is actually probably still going to be Francis Lawrence, who did like, except for the first one, all of the Hunger Games movies, plus Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes as well, which honestly is fine. Like, he did such a good job on them. Like, I'm sure that he will not disappoint. I feel like with a lot of books and series, like every time a new book is added or a new season is added to like TV shows and stuff, or like a new movie is added, I always feel like it's like a grab for money. Like, I actually never think it's gonna be good, except the Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes was so ridiculously good. Like, it did so well. I thought I was going to be underwhelmed when I went into reading it like 2 years ago, but it was done so well. Snow's story was written so perfectly. Obviously Suzanne Collins is like the greatest dystopian writer of all time. Like,
Argue with the wall if you like Divergent.
I'm just kidding. We're all entitled to our own opinions, but if you like Divergent,
Get out.
I'm just kidding. So according to Suzanne Collins and the article from Forbes, I'll link this in the description, this book is going to be a deeper dive into the use of propaganda and the power of those who control the narrative, which obviously we know is Snow himself. For the casting of Snow, I wonder if it's like, it can't be Tom Blythe because he would look way too young for like a 40-year-old, right? Maybe not even 40, a 58-year-old or something. But it can't be Donald Sutherland because he's also quite old. He looks far too old. So they're really gonna have to like do that thing with the casting again. Also, according to Suzanne Collins, this novel was inspired by the 18th century Scottish philosopher David Hume and his views of implicit submission and the easiness with which the many are governed by the few. So again, we're talking about Snow. Here's what I think is going to be in the actual book, because we actually have quite a bit of already established lore for Haymitch's story. I knew before doing my deep research that he definitely lost quite a lot of his family, which is why he was an alcoholic. I also knew already that this is a quarter quell with double the amount of contestants, because that's the condition for this one. So basically we're looking at the murder of like at least 47 people plus Haymitch's family. So here's what we know about Haymitch's games just from like the Hunger Games wiki. For Haymitch's tribute parade, him and 3 other District 12 tributes were dressed as coal miners. During his interview with Caesar Flickerman, Haymitch was asked about what he thought of the games, just like every other tribute, and because this time obviously there's 100% as many tributes. He replied by saying that he didn't see much difference as they were still going to be 100% as stupid. Wow, I'm already so excited for this. So during the actual games, after they started, apparently because the arena was quite beautiful, a lot of the tributes were too stunned to even get off of their pedestals, and this is what Hamish used as his advantage to easily grab a knife and a backpack from the cornucopia, while 18 of the tributes ultimately fell during the opening act of the second quarter quell, which is crazy. So obviously we should expect a beautiful arena. Also, how do you get an arena more beautiful than the arena for Catching Fire? Like, the way that it was everything I imagined while reading Catching Fire and more. I am really expecting them to get this right. Like, in the movie, I'm expecting them to get this beautiful arena right. We also know that in the forest, Hamish encountered mutations, which we've already seen in Katniss's games, in the form of fluffy carnivorous squirrels and stinging butterflies. I think we're looking at like a forest biome type, foresty type arena this time. Oh, very similar to the Catching Fire games, and that was a quarter quell too. Similarities, differences, guys. After the first day, other tributes had died from consuming or coming into contact with the arena's many poisonous elements. And on the fourth day, a volcanic eruption killed 12 more tributes, including 5 of the 10 remaining career tributes. Why am I thinking of like Hawaii? We're looking at like a volcanic island. It seems really similar to the Catching Fire arena. So during his games, he also made an alliance with one of the other female tributes from District 12, Maiseli Donna, who saved his life by killing one of the career tributes, by killing them with a poison dot. And since their odds of survival would be better if they formed an alliance, Hamish agreed. They created a system to salvage rainwater, working together to fight off other tributes and splitting the food from fallen tributes' packs. All the while, Hamish urged Maiseli to continue moving towards the edge of the arena with him in the hopes of finding something useful. Near the end of the games, when there were only 5 tributes left alive, Hamish and Maiseli finally reached the end of the arena but found nothing but a bare cliff. Apparently, when they came across this cliff, Maiseli suggested to go back, but Hamish refused to leave, which is why she broke up the alliance, as she didn't want to kill him by herself and left on her own. After her departure, Hamish explored the edge of the cliff, knocking a pebble off that unexpectedly bounced back while he rested. Obviously, we know that the games, they have this like electromagnetic type field around them, which is what almost killed Peter in Catching Fire. So apparently straight after this, he heard Maiseli screaming and ran in her direction to find her being attacked by the mutts. Hamish rushed over to her side and held her hand until she ultimately died. Guys, I cannot read about another District 12 tribute holding another tribute until they die. Like, I can't take this anymore, guys. If it happens again, I'm going to be so upset. It's going to happen again. Okay, so on the same day, the other finalist tributes had almost died, except for one of District 1's female tributes and Hamish. They eventually found each other and fought, and despite her being larger and stronger, both sustained several injuries. Hamish in fact sliced her eye out, and he himself was hit in the abdomen by her axe. After being disarmed, a weakened Hamish staggered through the forest while holding his intestines in, with the District 1 female in pursuit behind him. Hamish eventually reached the quick cliff he found earlier just as the District 1 female tribute threw her axe aiming for his head. Hamish collapsed from his injuries before it reached him, and it missed, flying off the cliff, but the axe rebounded off the force field back into the arena, killing her when it buried itself into her head, which left Hamish as the victor for the 50th Hunger Games. I'm pretty sure Hamish is like, apart from Lucy Greybeard, Hamish was the only other victor from District 12, I'm pretty sure. Oh, okay, this is why his entire family were killed. So when the axe rebounded off the force field, it was perceived as an act of defiance that made the Capitol look foolish, as the Capitol had just given Hamish another weapon to use, the force field. This was considered a stunt by President Snow, which is why Hamish's mother, younger brother and girlfriend were all killed by President Snow. Guys, oh my god. Obviously due to this horror and his grief over his family and girlfriend's death, and also because he alone mentored all of the next District 12 tributes for the next 23 years, he was so overwhelmed with guilt and grief that he turned to alcoholism to cope with his issues and feelings, and that's pretty much how we meet him in Katniss's games. This earned him the iron embarrassment of his district. He began sleeping with a knife in his hand and sentenced himself to a self-imposed state of solitary confinement by refusing to let anyone into his house and isolating himself from the rest of District 12. So that's everything that should hopefully be in the book that's coming out next year. Guys, that was a lot to unpack. It's going to be so good. You know what? I called this in my ranking dystopias video. I knew that something like this would happen, okay? I feel like in dystopias particularly, like, The Hunger Games is like one of the only dystopias that actually like understood the assignment. Like Suzanne Collins, when she writes, she has so much anger in her words. Like you can tell like everything that happened to Finnick with him being only 14 and being like sexually harassed by the Capitol, all of like the propaganda that the Capitol utilizes, all of these terrible things that happen. I even want to say like capitalism, because I mean it's literally called the Capitol and that's where all of the wealth goes in the end. Like I want to say like Suzanne Collins, she genuinely has so much anger behind her words, because this is something that people should be getting angry over in real life, like compared to other dystopias as well. Like
Divergent, as an example, like...
What is Divergent really? It's like an action movie. Where is the anger in Divergent? Like, at least in the first book, because that's the only one that I'm like really familiar with, there is no real anger behind other dystopian novels. Yeah, this is what I mean, right? All of the authors in this day and age, like there are so many books being published every single year, and a lot of them are so similar to each other. It feels like fast fashion, but with books. It now is a greater time than ever to just bring back the dystopian era from 2010s. Like I was too young at that time to be a part of that era. I was like 2 years old. I could barely even walk, but we can bring it back now. That's all I want to say. Do you know what I'm thinking? Like after this is over, I wonder if Suzanne Collins will continue releasing more stories of like previous victors, because I would really love to see Finnick's story first of all, because he was the youngest ever to win, because he was only like, yeah, he was 14 when he won the games. Also, the one that I'm really interested in is Mags, because Mags competed in the 11th Hunger Games, which would actually make such an interesting games, especially considering the fact that this is after Lucy Gray disappeared. Like the 10th Hunger Games changed everything. The 10th Hunger Games made Snow into the mass murderer that he is. Consider that, and then consider the fact that the 11th Hunger Games, the one straight after, is the one that Mags competes in. There are so many more stories that Suzanne Collins could honestly write about this, and this is like one of the only books in which I encourage the author to like continue what she's doing. Like I don't think it's ever gonna turn bad. I don't think it's ever gonna feel like a grab for money, you know, or like writing for the fans or writing for the sake of writing. It feels like she genuinely has so much more to say. Suzanne Collins is crazy. She's like our Lord and Savior right now. Like genuinely, I am so looking forward to Sunrise on the Reaping. Okay guys, that was everything that I kind of know so far, and everyone else knows so far, about what we should be expecting in the next Hunger Games book, Sunrise on the Reaping, and the next Hunger Games movie. I hope you guys are like just as excited as I am, because I am so excited. I can't wait to reread like the whole series plus Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes. I feel like I should end this video with like Rue's whistle, but I don't want to get copyrighted.